It's very little, and that hasn't been said in my book, Meditation, in chapter 2. It's nearly all there. Basically, all I can do is paraphrase or repeat that information. That particular chapter starts off something like, what is the subject of meditation got to do with healing? And the answer is just everything. Anyone that walks the meditation path automatically becomes a healer. They automatically have to work upon healing themselves. It's just a simple ABC process from that. As soon as you start to work upon Saṃskāras, as soon as you start to work upon the control of your emotions, the understanding and then control of your mind, working upon the chakras, all of this is healing. This whole planet, this whole civilization has gone exceedingly materialistic. If we step back in time just 100 and so years ago, 140, 150 or 60 years ago into the Victorian era, then that's the birth of modern science, of modern healing, the allopathic sort of methodology of using medicinal drugs. And then most people were what? They were Christians. There's faith healing and other forms of healing, because the modern concepts were just starting. And as you go further back, then there's a great ignorance in the subject of healing, the subject of anatomy. Somebody like Leonardo da Vinci had to start dissecting corpses. And in those days, it wasn't allowed. It was only in Italy that I think he could get away with it. And the discovery of the circulation of the blood, all of these are the beginning of empirical rationalizations of healing. The other method are psychic methods. And in between the psychic methods and the empirical rationalized method that we have now is the herbal forms of healing, what we now call the alternatives forms. Now, the problem is that our materialistic society has gone 100% into chemical drugs and imposing upon the physical body that which the physical body was never intended to have. And the medical profession somehow thinks that that is healing. And what we're looking at there is really just shunting symptoms around, suppressing symptoms. It's not really healing. Now, you can't tell that to anyone out there because they can see the effects of the allopathic drugs. They get a headache, they just take an aspirin or something like that, and the headache might go. It dulls the consciousness. And we are, since birth, conditioned to think along those lines. That's what our parents taught us. That's what we are taught at school. It's very, very difficult to break away from that consensus thought or the conditioning of the medical profession. And the medical profession nowadays is God, a G-O-D with a capital G, capital O, and capital D in our societies, and now how the process is manifested. It's dogmatism, it's fanaticism, it's the materialists thinking that only the material universe is important or exists, there's nothing else. And that the only way to healing is through the mechanisms of the material universe. When in fact, the reality is the opposite, is diametrically opposite to what we are indoctrinated with. Now, it's not that our medical profession haven't discovered some important discoveries, haven't discovered some appropriate healing methods. For instance, if I have a car accident, I'm happy to go to a hospital if my bones are broken, to have them go and help me mend it. Likewise, if there's brain injury or something like that, or some serious organ injury, I know that we ended up into the hospital. We know with their drugs, they can anesthesize us, sew up the organs and fix us up, whereas you can't do that very easy with herbs. So there is a validity to our medical professions, mineral drugs and methodology, but they've gone to the extremism of the dogmatic Christians of 1.5 to 2 centuries ago, of the dogmatism of the Inquisition, and have imposed inquisitional methodology upon the rest of us. Now, with the proper form of healing, and as I said, we'll take the ability of the medical profession, the allopathic healers, dealing with trauma as a given. That is their forte, that's their specialty, and we acknowledge that. But when it comes to actually dealing with the causes of sickness and disease, they're their children. There they know very little. The focus is, of course, disease-bearing agents. They think germs and viruses and things like that are the causes of the sickness. When in reality, no, they're not the causes. They're just the invader into the body once you've manifested the conditions by that invader can live and breed freely. You've made the right environment for them to breed, to overcome natural defensive mechanisms. So the alternative healing method is don't make or produce the conditionings whereby those invaders or that invader, whatever name you want to give them, I barely care what name, flus, influenza, COVID-19, or you can think of, scabies, rabies, and, all the sexual transmitted diseases, whatever the names and whatever the viruses that they give, they all the same entity. In our philosophy, we give them the name Dark Brotherhood. Now, we're zapping away Dark Brotherhood, and they're just the personifications of the same types of entities that on a minuscule scale, when it comes to sickness and disease, they're just the greater forms of evil, the greater invaders of our planet, of people's consciousness, of people's psyches. The whole thing to do with healing is to understand that energy is all that is. Energy and consciousness are interrelated. These invaders, whatever you want to call them, whatever name, they're just a form of very low vibrational energy entities. They can't reside in light where there is generated a field of light. They need arenas of darkness, which is dying of its own accord because it's not vitalized. So with regards to alternative form of healing, or esoteric healing, it's vitality. Vitality is everything. Vitality is just the strength of the energy that you are generating. So what is it that is vital? What is it that is vital is what has been ripened in the sun, grown in the sun. Vitamins, all of you have heard of them. What are they? They just captured sunlight. The plants, the fruits, they capture the sunlight and they incorporate it in certain entities, which vitality globules that have these names, vitamin A, B, C, D, and so forth. These are captured sunlight. And vitamin D is directly captured by you. You make it when you go into the sun. Your skin is conditioned to make that particular form of captured sunlight. And you can see when you look at the sun, that's what makes everything grow. So within you, what you have to do as a healer is to become a radiant sun, to manifest the conditionings that are sun-like, and to eat the foods that are sun-like. Animal products are what? They're second generation. or third generation forms of sunlight. They eat the captured vitality directly from the plants, and then are converted into meat products, much, much lower vibration. And then within the animal product, you get all of the animal diseases, the low energy fields that they've also generated. And when people eat the animal products, what they're putting into their body is this low vibrational energy field plus disease-bearing entities or agents. Now, the human consciousness can transform that, but it takes a lot of extra energy. It's better to live or eat direct, vitalized food that's been grown in the sun. Hydroponics, for instance, it's devitalized. If you look at this form of growing vegetables, what is it? It's away from the sun and the artificial light with basic nutrients. You pull it up, and within a day or two, it's rotting away. The vitality is almost zero, right? It's not going to produce health. You compare the hydroponic vegetables to something like a lettuce that's been grown in the sun with proper nutrients. And that, once it's been pulled from the ground, will last for a week or two, even without refrigeration, compared to a day, sometimes just a few hours, and the hydroponics start wilting. So one of the things that you all have to understand as healers, and when you're going to the subject of healer, is don't put into your body things, nutrients, entities. Now, everything is entity, everything is alive. You're talking about devas of one form or the other that are devitalized. When the entity is starting to rot away, it's deadly, or it's deathly.